Hey guys, thanks for joining ankle mobility class today. We're just going to get started with a warm-up as some people join. So just some standing ankle circles, keeping the toes down, going through slow ranges of motion, trying to warm up the ankles. Today we're going to be going through a few exercises that are going to target the primary causes of ankle mobility restrictions. So just warming it up here, some nice controlled ankle circles. Thanks for joining, guys. Just warming up the ankles for our ankle mobility class. And a few heel raises, kind of like you're running in place, but just moving the heels up and down. Get the calves firing a little bit. Today we're going to go through an ankle mobility test so we can actually measure your functional ankle dorsiflexion, which is a huge component for performance. And then we're going to go through some techniques that are going to help to improve the mobility of the muscle, the nerve, and the joint itself. So I'll give everyone just a few more seconds here. Maybe just some quick little jogs in place. Just get the circulation going a little bit, and then we'll go through that ankle dorsiflexion test. All right, so I'm going to move you over here. You're going to need a wall for this one. So you're going to come up against the wall. And to do this test, you can measure it officially with a ruler or measuring tape or anything like that. Or you can just put something there to mark down the distance from the wall. So here we go. We're going to start with the toes close to the wall to begin with. And then from there, the back foot can be lifted. So the toes can be on the ground, but the heel doesn't have to be. And we want to make sure that the hips are staying square. So don't let the hips turn in, or they won't likely turn out, but try to keep the hips nice and square to the wall. And then from there, you're going to keep the heel down and drive the knee to the wall. If that's easy, you keep scooting back little by little, finding that position where the heel stays glued to the floor and the knee can reach all the way to the wall. So you might feel this stretch in a few different positions, depending on where it's the most restricted. You might feel it here in the Achilles tendon. You might feel it all the way up in the muscle belly of the gastroc and the soleus, or you might feel it here in the front of the ankle joint. All good things. It doesn't quite matter where you feel it as long as you feel that stretch, and we can turn that exercise that test right into an exercise. So just go through several repetitions there where you found that spot to be just on the border without the heel lifting up. And you want to be doing this one barefoot. If you have sneakers on, just slip them off. The heel of the sneaker can allow you to cheat a little bit in the dorsiflexion, so we want to make sure that foot is all the way flat on the floor. So the goal for this test is for the toes to be 4 inches away from the wall. So that's the recommended minimum for squat performance, for functional performance. 5 inches would be optimal. And we'll do 2 more here, and then check the other side. So the other thing we look for with this test is symmetry from right to left. So we want to see if the ankle dorsiflexion range of motion is the same on both sides. If it's not, that can be a risk for injury. Can compensate all the way up the chain to the knee, to the hip, and even into the low back. So if you're experiencing pain in any of those joints, we really want to make sure that the ankles are functioning well, because it might be starting all the way from the bottom of the chain and working its way up. So again, you're finding that spot where the heel stays glued to the floor, the knee lightly taps the wall, and the hips are staying square. So just make sure you're not rotating back and forth. And we'll go through a few more reps on each side. A progression to this test and exercise would be to do the same thing, but with the toes elevated. So if you have a yoga block or foam roller works, okay, but you want to just make sure that the great toe, the big toe, is in extension. And then you can do the same thing. It's going to be much harder to get the knee to the wall, but now you're going to be biasing a little bit more of the undersurface of the foot, of the plantar fascia. So it's a bit deeper stretch, but very important to get that great toe extension. All right, we'll do 2 more here. All right, so that is your ankle mobility test. That's your functional test for ankle dorsiflexion range of motion. Super important. Again, we want 4 inches minimum away from the wall. Optimal is going to be 5 inches. All right, so next, we're going to do some soft tissue mobilization for the gastroc and the soleus. So I'm going to use a lacrosse ball. You can use whatever you have at home. If you have a lacrosse ball, a foam roller, a Theragun, anything like that. So what I like to do with the ball is just place it underneath the knee part of the calf and then work in small sections. So we're just rocking back and forth, whatever feels good. The good thing about soft tissue massage is that there's not really a right or wrong way. It's kind of dependent on how it feels for you. So you want to search out those tight spots. Maybe there's a tight band that you keep rolling over back and forth, and target those areas. So that's where the muscle is restricted. Whenever you feel either a tender spot or a spot that doesn't feel supple like the rest of the muscle, that's where you want to try to work it out and get through it. If you don't have any mobility tools, you can also just simply use the other knee. So if the left knee is bent, cross the right calf over, and then I have a little built-in lacrosse ball with my other knee. So again, this is just a way to prep the tissues, to get the muscle bellies feeling a little bit more relaxed. We're not claiming that this is breaking up any muscle adhesions, causing any change like that, but what it is doing is it's manipulating the nervous system. So we're allowing the nervous system, we're sending the message to the nervous system of that slow, deep pressure, which is a message of relaxation. So if you feel tightness in the calves, that slow, deep pressure can help to send the message to the nervous system, which in turn allows the muscle to relax. So then with the foam roller, if you have this, I like to do it 1 leg at a time. Not quite as much pressure as the lacrosse ball, I would say, because it's pretty far from your center of mass. You could lift up, get a little workout on your arms, and then you can cross the other leg over and do it that way as well. So we'll just work through a few more seconds on each side, and then we're going to get into some stretches and mobility drills for the calf and the ankle. All right, so we'll put our mobility tools to the side. And then the next exercise, we're going to work on the mobility of the nerve. So the sciatic nerve comes from the lower lumbar and sacral nerves, and it joins together to form a really thick nerve, transfers through the back of the leg, and then splits and goes all the way down to the bottom of the foot. So we're going to do an exercise here that's going to help to improve the slide and glide of that nerve. So you're going to interlace your hands behind the thigh. You want the thigh to be just about vertical. And then from there, relax the head and shoulders down. If you're not able to get it, you can also use a band or a towel to help assist you to hold the leg up. Basically, we want that hip flexor to feel like it can relax. So from here, you're going to straighten the knee and then flex the foot, point the foot, and bend the knee. And we'll go through some slow repetitions like that. And then if you can imagine the way that the nerve runs from the spine and all the way into the foot, you can see that in this position here, the nerve is stretched the most. And then as you point and bend the knee, you start to promote that mobility of the nerve sliding and gliding all the way through the back of the leg. So when there's tightness in that nerve, it could be sending the message to the muscle to remain tight as a protective mechanism. So it could be muscle-induced tightness from neural tension. So if you feel that this is really tight, you'll probably feel it in the hamstring or the calf. You may have some restrictions in the nerve, and this nerve glide will be a really good one for you to continue with. And we'll do 2 more and then switch to the other side. And 1 more. And we'll switch. Interlacing the hands, holding behind the thigh, eyes vertical. Straighten and flex, point and bend. Same thing on this side. Try to notice if they feel equal, if there's differences from side to side, if one feels tighter than the other. And try to promote some activity in the leg that's down as well. So you want that leg to be pressing lightly into the floor so that you're not getting any hip flexion or knee flexion on the side that's down. And we have 2 more here. And last one, and rest. Alright, so another stretch for the calf is going to be in this loaded position here. So we're going to get into downward dog. So hands on the floor, up onto your toes, and then you're going to lift the hips up into this inverted V. So from there, you're going to let one knee bend as the other heel drives down towards the floor to stretch through the calf. Hold it there for 2 or so seconds, and then switch. Now bend and drive the heel down. If this feels easy, adjust the position, bring the hips up higher. Find that spot for you where it feels like a nice, very strong but comfortable stretch through the calf. This is a great one before you go out and run. Get those calves fired up, nice and loose. A little more dynamic. You can also do this one faster. Replicate the running pattern a bit more. But we'll do it nice and slow for this video. And let's go for one more on each side. And last one. And bring the knees down, shake it out, roll your wrists. And then we're going to come back. Now we're going to come into push-up position. So in this push-up position here, we're going to do some ankle rocks. So with the right leg, let's hook it over and kind of grab on to the ankle of the left. And then from there, you're going to reach the heel down towards the floor and use your right leg to assist you. So the right leg is giving you an extra push, trying to reach the heel as far as you can to the floor till you feel a nice good stretch in the calf. And then press through the toes to rock back up. There we go. Really use that other leg to assist you, give you that extra overpressure for a nice good stretch. And it's 3, we'll go for 5, 2 more for this one. Make sure you're not sagging through the shoulders or shoulder blades. We want those shoulders to stay strong through this as well. And last one. And let's switch. Now the right foot is down. Left heel is crossed over, hooking onto the ankle. You're going to use your left foot to help drive the right heel down to the floor. Stretching through the calf. And then press through the right toes to rock back up into push-up position. We'll go through 5 slow repetitions like that. Really using that left foot to give you some overpressure for the calf. Last one. All right. Bring the knees down, shake out the wrists, do some more circles. Okay, so next, we're going to come into this half kneeling position here. So let's stick with the right leg down. The left knee is going to have the foot on the floor. So the toes are basically in line with the front of the opposite knee. So from the side, you're sitting like that. If this is uncomfortable on the right leg, you can prop yourself up with a yoga block, a foam roller, a box, anything that you have to help take some pressure off of that leg. Otherwise, we're going to do some ankle dorsiflexion mobilizations in this position. So with your hands, you're going to place your hands on the top of your knee, and then you're going to use your hands and your body weight to rock forward so that the line of direction of force is at an angle in front of you towards the floor. So you want to make sure the hips can come up, but the heel of the left foot stays glued to the floor. So just like that initial exercise, we don't want to rock so much that the heel comes up because then you lose the stretch of the dorsiflexion. So really put your body weight into it and start to just slowly mobilize through the ankle. And then see if you can think about just relaxing the muscles through the front of the foot. So a lot of times that anterior tibialis muscle and tendon likes to fire because it's trying to reverse your direction. So it's like a protective mechanism, but we want to see if we can just actively think about keeping that muscle relaxed so that we can get a little bit more range of motion into that dorsiflexion range. So you can do small pulses at end range, more like an oscillation, but no big bouncing like that. Just small little oscillations, and then you can have your direction kind of go towards the big toe, the middle toe, and the little toe to get all of those different ranges. And even just sitting in this position here for a sustained period will start to allow those tissues to adapt, again bringing it back to the nervous system. That slow, sustained pressure gives the nervous system enough time to relax and allow you to gain a little bit more range. So we'll do about 5 more seconds on this side and then switch. And good, shake it out. And we can do a little counter stretch here, plantar flexion, press the top of the foot down into the floor, and then we'll switch sides. So again, you're lining the right foot up now with the front of the left knee, sitting back onto that left foot, hands on the top of the right knee. Use your body weight and your pressure to go at an angle in front of you, working on that dorsiflexion of the foot, checking to make sure that the heel is staying glued to the ground. And then just notice where you feel the restriction. Is it different than the other side? Do you feel it in a different place? Is it tighter? All good things to notice and to work on. So if you have one side that's tighter than the other, when you're doing these in the future, just spend a little bit more time working on that side. Again, trying to get that anterior tibialis to relax so you can allow yourself to get into more dorsiflexion. Small oscillations at end range. And if this is getting uncomfortable, feel free to prop yourself up with whatever you have lying around. And then you're just changing the direction slightly. It's very slight from the big toe to the middle and then to the little toe. And we have 5 more seconds here. All right, so we'll shake that out, flex the foot, you can tap your feet into the ground a little bit, and then we're gonna get into a stretch for the big toe. So you're gonna curl the toes underneath, so you get nice extension of that big toe. All the little toes are an extension too, but you wanna make sure that most of the pressure is through the big foot, or the big toe. We don't want the ankles to be rolled out to the side. So the heels are pointing straight up towards the ceiling, and really getting extension of that big toe. From there, you're gonna start to walk your hands back up to sit back onto your heels. So the knees are staying down on the floor and you're using your body weight to stretch that big toe into extension even more. So this is helping to not only gain extension of the big toe, which is super important for sport, but also stretching the plantar fascia. So when there's restrictions in the plantar fascia or any of the small muscles on the bottom of the foot, it can cause tension that translates all the way up the posterior chain. So all the way through the back of the ankle, the calf, the hamstring, and even into the glute. So this is a really good one if you're ever experiencing plantar fasciitis or anything like that, to get that big toe extension to gain that mobility back with the big toe. So this one, if you're not used to it, can feel very painful. So if you're starting to experience pain, just come out of it, shake it out. The goal is going to be to hold it for as long as you can, but within tolerance. So you can always come out of it, shake it out, and then just get back in. And you can also keep your hands down on the floor, and then you'll have a little bit more control. You can do some rocking, so it's not quite as sustained heavy pressure, but it's still working into extension the whole time. And you can use your hands and your hips to gauge how much of a stretch you're putting through the big toe. So we'll spend a few more seconds here, and then we're going to combine both of those exercises together. And shake it out. Okay, so now we're going to combine the ankle dorsiflexion with the great toe extension. So we're going to start in that hands and knee position, quadruped, with the toes curled under. For the first few times, we're going to keep the fingertips down on the floor. You're going to start to walk your hands closer to your knees as your weight starts to shift into your hips. Once you find that balance point, the knees are going to float up and rock back. Weight is continuing to go into your hips, and then bring the heels down. So now we're sitting in this nice deep squat position. So from there, you can keep your fingertips down on the floor for balance. You're going to walk your fingertips up. The weight starts to shift forward. You're going to try to keep the heels down on the ground for as long as you can. Eventually, they'll start to come up. And then you're going to slowly, with control, let the knees come down. And then we'll go a little bit faster here. So you're going to float the knees up, rock into that deep squat, and fingertips down to the floor. Keep the heel down as long as you can, and roll over the big toe to let the knees come down to the floor. And you can see here how we're combining that great toe extension when the knees are down, with that ankle dorsiflexion when we're in the deep squat. The deep squat is a very functional position. If you've ever seen a baby squat, that's the way adults should be squatting as well. We should have the ability to squat like that, I should say, but we tend to lose it because our joints become stiff. We sit, we do activities that aren't utilizing full ranges of motion, and we tend to lose that mobility through the joints. So just working through those ranges of motion to tolerance can help restore some of that natural mobility in our bodies. And then if you want to try to go without hands, you can let the knees just slowly float to the floor and then reverse it back. And we'll keep going, rocking like that. We have 2 more here. And last one. And done. Okay, so let's come back up. Back up to standing, just shake it out a little bit. You might have some irritation, some pain. It's okay, it'll go away. It's just because it's new ranges of motion. And then just separate the feet. Let's go into whatever stance that you normally squat in. It might be different for everyone. And just see how your normal squat feels. Is it easier to get down? You feel better through the calves and the ankles. If you have any questions on anything regarding ankle mobility, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. All right, talk to you soon.